Wow, pretty impressed by that. I don't know. It looks like, I mean, it looks very much like a BBC style ident.
That was wonderful, exactly. And look, at least I'm right with my Christmas hat and everything. And Ollie there, Mr. Grinch, you've nothing at all Christmassy. Yeah, this
This is
is our
my
Christmas.
this is my Santa up here.
Um, from here, it looks like Adolf Hitler. Who is it?
Adolf Hitler. It's that's Gaitan.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay. Well, I looked. It's hard. I'll have to check my eyesight. But everything's good with you anyway, Ollie. Are you getting in the festive spirit at all?
I am. I've decided to get into the festive spirit by catching COVID-19. Actually,
And
you'll be happy to
yeah.
know this, but actually, it would have been exactly. I would have imagined the first time I really noticed the symptoms was exactly this time last week. I started coughing a little bit after our show, and in the morning it was bad enough that I thought I should go and get a test. So I've got myself tested after a week of symptoms, and now another week has run and the symptoms have gone away. So it's
Okay.
come and gone almost within a week.
Okay, well, we'll get into that in a little bit more detail, actually, Ollie, because it's probably something that you can share your experiences in terms of the test for anybody who may, unfortunately, get COVID-19 in the next few weeks or whatever. But other things that are coming up on Colombia's only live and interactive English language chat show, well, we are going all festive. Yes, Ollie and I have officially embraced the Colombian Christmas for one night only anyway. But what does Christmas here mean to you? As a foreigner, do you go all in for the country's traditions, or do you give them a wide berth? Colombians, how important are the end of year celebrations to you? Will you be doing things differently this year due to COVID, or is it a case of carry on regardless? Do get in touch with us with your thoughts by using the live comment facility, or if you're watching this recorded, you can send a message via the medium on which you're viewing us, or simply send a tweet to everybody's favorite newspaper at Bogotá Post. Also, we have a gift pack from the Cali-based socially conscious coffee company Cafe Plus to give away to one lucky viewer. Yes, we do have a prize. So details on how to win that to come a little later on. Before all that, though, it's our take on the week's news. And as Ollie mentioned, he did get COVID. So you've joined 65 million. When I checked this earlier on today, it was at 67.5 million confirmed cases, and it dropped down in the last few hours to 65 million. So I don't know what's happening there. But how was it, Ollie? So you found out that you went for a test last Friday because you thought you might have it. And how was that whole experience?
Pretty easy, actually. And to be honest, I was pretty impressed by all parts of it. So I went to Corrigan, which is a sort of private clinic sort of thing on Calle 49 with 13, so just between 13 and the Caracas. Very easy to find, big silver letters on the outside of the building, Corrigan, as in Colombia can. Walked inside, went into the main area. I said, I would like a COVID test. And they said, all right, COVID tests are down the hall. Well, not down the hall, kind of outside. You go to the kind of separate area, slightly removed from the main bit, which again made a lot of sense. It said to me that basically anybody I might have infected or been infected by at that point would have been kept away from any other patients. So I thought that was a really nice touch. I had a kind of, usual Colombian form in triplicate, kind of 5-page form, just repeating a lot of stuff, where you lived, where you were from, blah, blah, blah. By the time I'd filled out the form, pretty much I was being called up. It was 100,000 pesos. That this was for the antigen test. And since I'd had symptoms for a week, not COVID symptoms necessarily, just slightly high temperature and kind of cold symptoms, it was only when I picked up the cough that I decided to go for the test. because that kind of told me that it could be, time to think about COVID rather than just a standard cold. And yeah, pretty much, yeah, 100,000, very reasonable price. They told me I'd get results within 3 to 4 hours. In the end, it was about 2 hours. I would estimate maybe an hour between leaving my house and walking back through the front door.
How do you get the result then? Sent to you by email? Or
by email, yeah.
Okay.
I believe that there were other ways of doing it. Email seemed by far the most convenient for me. So I received 2 emails. First email was just a PDF of my results, which would have been scanned in very quickly. Then there was a follow-up email about an hour after that, explaining kind of what responsibilities I had and what the aislamiento procedure was. So all in all, yeah, pretty impressed by that.
Interesting that you paid 100,000. I would have thought that people, well, obviously I'm guessing people on CISBEN, which is the lowest rung of the health ladder here in Colombia, wouldn't have to pay for it. But I thought if you're paying your APSA,
well, yeah, free. Look, so I sort of vaguely had a look at going through Sura, who are my EPS, but that wasn't going to be quick. And neither was it going to be convenient. So basically, looking at Sura, it didn't look fast. I didn't look at it for very long, but it definitely didn't look fast. Like I said, with Colcan, the reason I'm paying the 100,000 is walk in, fill out a form, walk out, pretty much.
Okay, I guess, Ollie, you're in a fairly well-paid job, but you can understand for a lot of people in this city, then they're going to go, I'm not paying 100,000 for a test. So if I can't get the test with my APSC, which this did happen to my former housemate, she thought she might have had it, and she called her APSC, which I forget which one it was. She was on hold for hours. This is going back to
yes, so that's basically what I looked at, yeah. Actually, what I would suggest in that case would be trying to get hold of the free public testing. Now, we had a journalist at the Bogotá Post, Tristan Quigley. He went to get one of the free tests when it was in his barrio. This was a long time ago under lockdown. So this would have been something like May or June. It was a very long time ago. He had to wait for a lot longer because obviously at that point there was a lot more interest in getting tests done. He was waiting, I think, something like 3 hours or 2 hours, just literally in a line on the pavement to get, to get to the front of the queue in order to be seen. Obviously, like I said, I'm literally just throwing money at the problem to save myself that hassle.
Yeah, and as I said, for certain people, I guess middle class and upwards, 100,000 isn't much in the great scheme of things. And now I'd say it's reasonable. Yeah, must be a couple of months ago, around my neck of the woods as well, up here in the far north, actually next to the Kai in Verbinal, the one that got badly burned. They were giving, I think there were free tests there as well, and there didn't seem to be much of a queue or anything.
No, the last time I saw those guys out and about in the Parque Nacional about 2 months ago, something like that. Yeah, there was a queue of 4 people.
Okay, yeah.
And I think you can keep if you use Twitter, I think you can keep an eye on where they are. They kind of post where they're going to be.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that might be an option. As you said, the demand has probably subsided somewhat as well over the last few months. By the way, there's no truth in the rumor that you can contract it via Zoom, because if so, then I'll probably have to go for a test. I hope not. But in terms of the symptoms, obviously, you're not quite 40 yet, if I can give your age. So it didn't really knock you for 6 or anything at all. No. So basically, 2 weeks ago, after this show, in the morning, on the Friday morning,
I sort of got a bit of a sort of, that weird glow you get when you're a little bit ill. I kind of had that in the morning, didn't think much of it. By the evening, I had it. No sign of a cough, a little bit snotty, which kind of seems to, not be linked to COVID at all. That passed. I mean, I felt kind of, having a cold bad on that Saturday and Sunday. And then that was it, pretty much, and didn't think much of it at all until the Thursday night when I started coughing. And that's why I got the test, because that kind of, for me, that tipped out. What I didn't want to do was go and get a COVID test when I had what I thought were just standard cold symptoms. I did stop seeing people, so I'd had a week kind of not really seeing people. Obviously, in the past week, that's been a bit more extreme, and I've had no symptoms at all today. So assuming that there's still no symptoms in the morning, that'll be 2 weeks after my first symptom, which means I'll probably start taking the dogs out for a walk again.
Okay. Incidentally, anyone call around? Like, do they check up? Could they potentially in that email you got that
not as far as I can see. It seems to be left to you. So they say you need to let your employer know, and sort of contact all the people you may have come in contact with, which I did. But it seems to be left to you rather than there being some sort of checkup system. Okay. And interestingly enough, by the way, we've got a comment here from Rupert Stebbings to say that Colombia ranked 94 globally per capita in testing. Not sure what he means by that. If he means the 94th most efficient country at testing per capita.
I'm guessing that's what it means. Because, well, in fairness, I did write a story based on the experiences of my housemate and other stories I'd heard about people who went through their APS. And in fairness, you pay your APS, so you think you can use that for times like this. We'll call it a poor man's NHS that you have in the UK. And the story was Colombia not up to the COVID, the coronavirus.
Oh yeah, look, I don't think anybody's holding back on that. It's very much true that there were certainly massive delays. Like I said, our journalist who got tested in that first round, Tristan, he was waiting far beyond the kind of 3 days that they said he'd get his. It was a couple of weeks, if I remember correctly, at least. And a lot of people simply never received their results, as far as we can see. Yeah, look, nobody's saying that it was implemented perfectly. But what really interests me about Rupert's comment here is that this is something I think a lot of people would behoove themselves well to remember, is that actually you expect Colombia to be around number 90 in the world, because that's where Colombia places on GDP per person. And pretty much everything you look at in the world, Colombia ranks around 94. There's some weird outliers, they're number one in birds, as they go on about every 10 seconds. We've all heard about how many frogs there are in Colombia and that sort of thing. But when we talk about normal stuff, actually, we expect the Colombian healthcare system, we expect the number of arrests made in Colombia, etc., etc., etc. We expect all of those things to be around number 90 in the world. So to see Colombia at number 94 is actually pretty much where we expect Colombia to be, which is there are a lot of countries who are a lot richer, who we expect to be doing a lot better, and there's about half the world that's poorer that we expect to be doing not quite as well. So I'd say, yeah, that's pretty much what I expect of Bogotá.
Yeah, before somebody comments, they probably say, well, but when it comes to corruption, they're at the top end of the list.
No, but that's the thing. But they're not. If you look at Transparency International's perception of corruption index, actually that's exactly where Colombia is. It's around number 90 in the world.
Well, that's one, because there's other measures, and they usually have them in the top 10 or whatever that I've seen them in before.
The only time that ever happens is either when it's OECD countries where, of course, you'd expect Colombia to be very close to the bottom because you're ranking it only against extremely wealthy, countries that are just on a different wealth level. Or in that very limited study by USA Today, was it? US News, that extremely limited study that made a lot of waves here last week. But that only actually looked at 69 countries. So, of course, again, you would expect Colombia to do poorly among the 69 countries selected, which was the European 26 plus a number of relatively wealthy countries. Anything that looks at 198 countries, anything that looks at 200 countries, Colombia tends to come in around number 90.
Yeah, no, fair point. Middle of the road, really, when you take it into account. Of course, there was another one, and I was digressing, really, but there was one that put Bogotá like one of the worst for traffic congestion, which again was highly debated and disputed too.
Well, but you'd only have to go. I mean, these things always amaze me. It doesn't bother me when Pepito Perez says, repeats this. It does bother me in my university because I hear people who are allegedly quite intelligent academics telling me that they believe this stuff, and I say, well, but come on, have you never seen? Have you never been to India? When they tell me things like, oh, the air pollution in Bogotá is the worst in the world. And I'm like, are you seriously? Do you honestly believe that? I mean, have you never seen a picture of Delhi? Delhi is lit in smog, or Beijing or Shanghai. There's a whole number of cities around the world. And it just, again, it's this very insular thing about Colombia, where there seems to be this obsession with being the worst in the world. And Colombia's not really the worst in the world at very much, frankly.
I think it's an Irish mentality as well. We like to,
yes, we absolutely. And we see this with Brexit in the UK as well. There's lots of people lining up to say, oh, England's democracy is the worst in the world. And I think, come on, come on.
Okay, I'm going to have the final word in the sense that I remember the Indonesian secretary at the embassy here, whatever, saying that she thought the traffic here was worse than Jakarta. Again, people I know who know Jakarta said and know this city said that is ridiculous. But talking about paying for things, it looks like whenever we do get the vaccine, Duque has announced in the Min Salud that it will be free for everybody, no matter if you're earning a couple of $1 million a year or a couple of million pesos a year. It's going to be free. Do you agree that it should be free, Ali? Is this great news for everybody?
It seems sensible to me. I mean, there's two schools of thought on this, aren't there? One is that, richer people should subsidize poorer people. I suspect the administration involved in working out the subsidy probably loses money over simply saying anybody who turns up gets it, bang. And I suspect it's just quicker to do it that way. So yeah, I don't think that's a terrible thing. I really don't. There seem to be indications. Now, this, again, doesn't seem to be fully clear. The biggest companies that we've seen so far, so Pfizer and AstraZeneca, haven't been entirely clear at the moment about what their policy will be for developing countries. So they've been making noises about offering it at cost or close to cost for poorer countries. Whether Colombia fits into that bracket, we don't know. What price near to cost will be, we don't know. So there are a few questions over that. But I think we can probably assume that the cost of vaccination won't be as heavy in Colombia as it will be in, for example, Ireland or the United Kingdom.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing in Ireland the system's already in place anyway in terms of those who do get free medical care and then those who have to pay for it. So those who get, vulnerable people will get it, I'm sure, for free, and those who are all who are on medical care will also.
I think that's a much bigger question, really, Brendan. Is how they're going to give out the vaccine, who they're going. Is it first come, first served, or will there be a tier system, which is already what my country, the United Kingdom, is in the process of organising right now. That we've got a kind of 5-tier, I think 4 or 5-tier system of priority. Again, that would seem sensible for Colombia to copy.
Oh yeah, you would definitely think so. I mean, the likes of ourselves, we don't really need it. You could say at all.
I certainly don't. Welcome to. I've basically already had the vaccine, pretty much.
Yeah, you got it up close and personal, as they say. But well, we're going to be. If people are wondering why I'm wearing my ridiculous Santa Claus when we're having a rather serious discussion, it's because of the second half of the show. We are going to be talking about Christmas in Colombia. I haven't lost my marbles just yet. And also, we do have a prize courtesy of Cafe Plus, a Cali-based coffee company. We'll be giving out details how you can win that little goodie pack from them. And it can be delivered to anywhere in Colombia. So it doesn't matter if you're listening in Chocó or in Cali, you can get in touch with us if you know the answer to the question. But that's coming up, and do send us your messages about your Christmas in Colombia if you're a foreigner or indeed a local. But speaking of Christmas, we had the measures announced by the mayor, Lopez, here in Bogotá in terms of what we can and cannot do, and it's pretty much seems to be business as usual for the Christmas period.
Yeah. For us, certainly. It does look like some regions are going to have a few more restrictions. I think the big headline news is the curfew on alcohol. So bars are going to shut that little bit earlier. But to be honest, it seems at the moment, and again, it's interesting. I think you told me yesterday in our preparations, Brendan, that Lopez is talking about potentially restricting some of the shopping areas that have already looked a little bit on the busy side in the run-up to Christmas. It seems to me like this is pretty much the way we're going. As long as people don't take the piss, it's going to be relatively relaxed. But I would very much imagine that if we start seeing large agglomerations, those, the rules might change, which seems fair.
Well, it's San Victorino, of course, that huge popular spot in the center of Bogotá, where you can pick up all sorts of cheap and tacky rubbish for Christmas. That's where there were a load of people crowded together yesterday morning. There were photos of that. And that's when Lopez said, if we see a repeat of this, she would put back the early starts. But as we commented at the time, I mean, if you're going to then close the window when people can shop, well, that's just going to make it worse. You're going to condense more people into a shorter period of time. It's like that old debate about when you have the same closing hour for loads of places for nightlife, you throw everybody out onto the street at the same time. Cue chaos.
Disaster, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, yeah, as you said, it will be interesting to see how it goes. I wonder, are we going to have like a few all-night shopping nights that we usually have one at least each season, so they might consider bringing in a few more if people feel comfortable going.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, a large part of the scheme that we've seen so far seems to be aimed at getting people to go outside. So we've got another Ciclovia Nocturna coming up on the 10th. There's a massive focus on the these are popular year-round, but this year it seems to be a particular focus on the Christmas lights. We're seeing announcements about lots of open-air, outdoor events being run by the council. So, I would expect that to be a lot of mini concerts and the like. And also, of course, Lopez is talking about sending entertainment into the barrios. And that seems to me to be an excellent idea. Seems to me to be a really, really nice idea. It's something that already takes place. It's much safer for people to meet each other outside. If you put something nice outside, people will go out to look at it. So it seems to me like this is excellent, excellent managed. And I will hold my hands up here, Brendan, and I will say, look, I didn't think Claudia kicked off lockdown very well. I think she made some big missteps in the first couple of months. But following that, I have to say I've been cautiously pretty impressed by her management and administration in the past 6 months, let's say.
Well, you know, I've been fully behind her from the get-go. I've never questioned any of her decisions and never would. I'm trying to get her on the podcast. No, I'm joking. Just on about the entertainment in the barrios, please, Policia de Bogotá and Claudia Lopez, if you're listening, we can make our own entertainment in Barrio Santandercito with our asados al fresco and all that kind of stuff, cielo abierto. So just don't let the police, get in our way, and we'll be fine with that. We can manage that. But yeah, I think it's a sensible approach. We'll see how it goes. Of course, there's fears then that we're going to see a second wave here before the vaccine arrives. But is it a case that they're kind of going, look, we need the Christmas expenditure. Let's get through this and we'll deal with whatever comes with it in January or February or March, whenever it comes?
Well, I wonder also, Brendan, if there's just a little bit of government acceptance of what's possible. And actually, a lot of people criticize the government. Duque got a lot of criticism for this early on in lockdown. I still think it's pretty sensible to try and see what you can get away with. Like, as a government, I would often be thinking, look, if we put in this rule which we can't enforce, that's much worse than putting in a rule that we think we can enforce. And again, I think, are you going to make all Colombians stay in over the Christmas period? Good luck. Like, good luck, or you're going to have to take some incredibly bad publicity. You'll have to have police out on the streets cracking heads. You're going to be shutting down shops left, right, and centre. That's nobody wants that. It's unpopular. It'll make people angry. What's the point? Whereas, I think what we do tend to see here is, look, yes, there is a risk you'll get infected. We're going to trust you to manage that risk, and it's your lookout if you don't manage it. This is as far as we can go and be reasonably obeyed. Which, I don't think that's a bad way.
Yeah, and in fairness, from a Bogota perspective anyway, you'll have fewer people in the city in the next few weeks as the exodus begins in earnest. Of course, we are going to be talking about Christmas very shortly, because I know we're kind of coming up to the half-hour mark here as well. There's a couple of other things we just want to run through, because this has been kind of termed as fake news, Ollie, but it's not. These new rock paintings discovered in Guaviare that were actually discovered last year, but they've been put on hold. We'll quickly give it a quick mention, though, because a Channel 4 from the UK documentary apparently uncovered them, but they've kept it quiet because the documentary is coming out now in a couple of weeks. But some people have said, but they're the same rock paintings that everyone can visit in Guaviare, but they're not.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are confused here. There are lots of rock painting sites. And by the way, I think Spanish is a really elegant term here. They call them pinturas rupestres, which means, painted on the rocks, which I think is a lovely term. But anyway, look, there are these sites abound in Guaviare. The two big points of concentration are Chiribiquete National Park, which is completely locked off to private visitors, and the Serranía de la Lindosa. Now, there's plenty of sites all over it, and of course, the various armed groups and local people will have known about various of these sites. Some of these sites are open to tourists. The site that's being heavily featured in the upcoming show on Channel 4 is a site which was, as you say, only discovered by academia and by science, as opposed to local people, in the last year or so, post-peace. So this is the first time there's been, proper academic, scientific access to the sites to really try and decipher what these symbols could be, what they could relate to, and of course, critically, how they relate to the existing known sites that we all we all know about. I mean, again, though, coming back to our points about experience, anybody who's been to the Guaviare sites, the regular tourists, will see the difference very quickly. What they're talking about here, the Iriarte team, led by Professor Jose Iriarte from Exeter University, they're talking about a site that features tens of thousands of rock paintings accessed on a part of the cliff which is inaccessible without obstructing some sort of scaffold. And of course, you know, nobody who's visited the existing tourist sites, you would instantly say, well, that clearly isn't the same place. You know, that's not true. Spectacular though they are, I do recommend the Guaviare tourist sites very, very highly. They are absolutely awe-inspiring places to visit. I understand the Raudales is a little bit tricky to get to these days. I visited it in 2014. Cerro Azul is the sort of big one that most tourists go to. It's still a fantastic site, really is.
Yeah, and of course, with the holiday season coming up, people kind of think, oh, San Jose de Guaviare, the department capital of Guaviare, is like, oh, that's far away. But it's really, what, an 8-hour bus journey overnight from Bogotá? Well, if you want to do it overnight from Bogotá, it's not that far away at all. And yeah, easily accessible. Tourism infrastructure isn't fantastic, but when I was there two or 3 years ago, I just got a moto taxi guy to bring me around for 2 days on the trot, paid him 50 or 60,000 per day. And was, yeah, he wasn't fantastic. He didn't really know where he was going himself. He had to ask a lot of people along the way. But it was an adventure, I have to say. But yeah, it is a fascinating spot. Well worth a visit if people are still planning their Christmas. And
would you say it was not? It was definitely one of those sites were 2 hours by jeep and then a half-day hike through a jungle.
What? Oh, what? To
I
get?
mean,
No.
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of says it all.
Yeah, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, about the Channel 4 thing. Yeah, for sure. Look, we get on to our main topic here, just to finally put this one to bed, because we were a bit premature 2 weeks ago, but finally we can say now that Carlos Queiroz is no longer the manager, the coach of the Colombian selection, and the search begins in earnest for his replacement. And also, those of you who are into sport, the semi-finals of La Liga Betplay this weekend. We've got two Bogotá teams, of course, Santa Fe against Equidad. So we're guaranteed a Bogotá team in the final. In the other semi-final, it's Juniors of Barranquilla against America de Cali. But we are talking about Christmas, and I see. Well, it wouldn't be a Bogotá Nights without Paula Andrea Perez Rubiano contacting us. We'll check that message out in a second. But will we do the competition question first, Ollie, or will we give it 5 minutes?
Yeah, let's kick it off. So? Yeah.
Okay, go on. You've got it. It's your question. So I have no responsibility if there's like controversy over this. As a quiz master, you know what it's like.
Remind me exactly what the prize is again, precisely.
It's a little goodie bag from Cafe Plus, which is a Cali-based socially conscious coffee company where they invest their profits back into the local community. It's owned by an Englishman, Rupert Stebbings, actually, who wrote to us. He'll know Simon Ford very well. Who Simon Ford also doubles up as the honorary consul for the UK in Cali. But yeah, Cafe Plus, so it's a new cafe company, and they're giving us a little goodie bag, and it can be delivered anywhere in Colombia. So, well, I think actually anywhere in the world, but I'm guessing we're going to have listeners in Colombia solely. So go on, Ali, give us the question.
So we're asking a nice, simple question to win this fantastic prize is simply, on what night of the year, on which date? So the first person who writes into us, on the Bogotá Post Facebook page, so a direct message on the Messenger app, I will be checking that in a minute. And to win the prize, on what date do Colombians celebrate La Noche de las Velitas, the night of the little candles? On which date, which day of the year?
Okay, so we're not taking the answers on the live feed. It has to be on the Bogotá post direct message.
No, well, either, both. Whoever
Okay,
gets there
right.
the fastest.
Okay, whichever one we see first. Okay, well, you type it on there, and we'll see the messages coming in. So, okay, it is Christmas now. Now the reason why I have this silly hat on now I can feel a bit more relaxed. It kind of kicked off. You can say, well, it kicked off 2 months ago. I mean, the Christmas songs, I heard them on radio stations here.
My word! Sorry, they are fast, are they not?
Okay.
I think we've almost got a dead heat here. I think Kieran Duffy sounds like he'll be your countryman there. That's incredible. Within less than a minute of me asking that question, he's sent us a message. And I noticed that Paula Andrea and Jacob Toms have been. I think slightly beyond. I've got 9:36 from Kieran Duffy here.
Wow, show it on the. Can you show it on your phone there? Can you?
I can. Yeah, there you go. That's.
I can see. I can. Oh yeah, and the time. Yeah, I see it. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. It looks like Kieran's done it. Well, we'll get what Kieran can do. Well, we do. We both of us do know him. Not that this is an insider job, but we'll get his address, because that will be delivered by DHL, I'm told. Simon Ford has a deal with DHL and delivered to his house in Bogotá, which is where I believe Kieran lives. So yeah, well done. 7th of December is the night of the Little Candles night, Noche de los Velitas. But yeah, so Christmas is kind of kicked in, and we were kind of saying it kind of comes in phases. So we're in phase 1 now with the December having started up until the Night of the Little Candles, Noche de los Velitas, and that to me then is really it. Like, people kind of just don't want to work after the 7th of December, because the 8th, being a Catholic festival, is a public holiday here, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. Work that one out. Then Jesus was born on the 25th of December. How did that happen? Anyway,
I think of all the things to question in that whole story, that's really very low down in my. I don't understand where you're accepting an Immaculate Conception, but a short gestation period, you're not having it. What's the logic?
I'm a man of science. I can let that concept. You never know what happened there. It's all about the science these days, you know that. Anyway, go on. No, we'll get ourselves into trouble here. Yeah, so the Noche de los Velitas, we might as well talk about that, because that's going to be next Monday night, I should say. Tuesday is the 8th, the holiday. Your experience, Ollie, have you got involved in this? Because obviously it's a very family-oriented thing, which all Christmas is really for Colombia. Have you done it with families here, or do you give it a wide berth, as I mentioned in our introduction?
I did it once. Yeah. But that was the Christmas rather than velitas. Velitas I've always taken a dim view of, so I've never got involved in that.
What's the origins? And guys, Colombians who are listening, what? I don't know, Ollie, do you know this? But what's the point of it? Why do they light the candles? What does it signify?
To do with tweeness? I did know once. We did an article about this, because there's actually quite an interesting festival in Quindío, which involves jaguars. I can't remember the exact. It's like a Quimbayan thing that's been combined with Catholicism, which was quite an interesting looking festival, actually. And I remember writing an article about it, but that's been lost in my memories, I'm afraid.
I'm sure Paula Andrea, or if Jacob Toms is probably not Colombian, but I'm sure Paula Andrea can tell us what the origins of the.
And by the way, our competition winner does point out, obviously got a better nun-based education than you in Ireland. The Immaculate Conception is the day Mary was conceived, he says, not Jesus.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And actually, I do seem to remember now that that's the case. Yeah, I mean, I'm not Christian, but I think, yes, because of course Mary's born without sin, isn't she? So she's immaculately conceived without sin, unlike everybody else.
Well, I thought that came
which
in
is
afterwards. They decided that afterwards.
no.
But was
That's why.
Jesus not?
That's why she gets assumed into heaven rather than
Yeah.
ascending.
But like, you know, the whole reason why Christmas is on the 25th of December to coincide with other pagan festivals and in this real dark moment and the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere and all that kind of stuff, that actually the records would say that Jesus Christ was born in September anyway. So that kind of would make up the 9 months. Anyway, look, we're getting
The thing that's
completely
always
off
got
topic
me,
here.
Brendan. So sorry, just very quickly, because this is something
Yeah.
that's always bothered me. Jesus was born, and then you've got a week where it's AD, but it hasn't gone to AD yet because New Year's still a week ago. So I find that really odd that, of course, the 26th of December on 1 BC is still BC. It doesn't become AD. Surely that should change immediately. I find that very odd.
Yeah, they weren't using the digital system back then, so they got confused, I guess. No,
Anyway,
we're kind of
sorry,
getting off
yes.
topic.
So
Exactly. So
velitas.
we've got
So what happens?
velitas.
What explain velitas? Imagine you're talking to my mother. She doesn't know what velitas is. What is velitas?
Okay, well, a bunch of people families get together and they light candles and have the typical Colombian food. It seems to be of buñuelos and maybe natilla as well. That's the common thread through until the 24th of December and even beyond the 24th then of eating a load of natilla, which is a little anecdote about natilla. The first time I encountered this, it was my first Christmas in Colombia and I was in Medellin. It was 2011, and I was working in a hostel, and they were telling us, "Oh, we're going to have this night of natilla and buñuelos." And like in my head, I was thinking, "Oh, this amazing meal and everything is going to be fantastic." So I was, a tight backpacker. Some things never change. I thought I'm going to starve myself. I can't wait for this free meal tonight. And then the disappointment of getting this sugary kind of postre dessert style thing with a few currants or raisins, whatever you want to call them, stuck on top of it, and these round ball things that were fried. It certainly didn't satisfy my hunger, I'll put it that way, but I drank to make up for it, at least. But yeah,
Again, some things never change.
Yeah, tea and coffee, I meant. No, but so they light candles, then you get a whole load. You'll see people now selling candles intensely over the next week of different colors. And one thing, again, we were talking about yesterday in our planning for this, is like, people, if you're going to light the candles, think about the wax and where it's going to be. Could you put a little piece of cardboard underneath it or something, so then at least the wax is there, and then you can bin that, because you'll see the wax for months afterwards on the street. But yeah, it's I mean, look, it's just one of those nights. I guess for some people it might signify the official start of Christmas, in the same way another Catholic country. In Ireland, for us, the 8th of December is kind of the official day when the country people used to go to the cities to do their Christmas shopping, and really that was the impulse that Christmas has started in earnest. So yeah, that's your Noche de Velitas, and then we kind of kick into
Novenas.
Novenas. Yeah, this is even more religious in it. Well, it's religious obviously in its origin, but people get together and recite prayers and things. I managed to avoid this, Ollie, for all my time in Colombia until I started my full-time job in December 2018, and it coincided with them, the company, starting the novena season there too. And yeah, I thought it was, I mean, I'm from a Catholic background and all that kind of stuff, but this kind of obligation to go and recite off prayers, and everybody gets involved, no matter what your beliefs are. I thought it was a bit funny, but I guess that was at work. But then families tend to do them as well, and even conjuntos, whatever they get together, and then there might be a glass of wine, or may not, or maybe some, again, buñuelos and natilla, of course.
Yeah, it does. I do get the feeling that quite a lot of my Colombian friends kind of use it as an excuse for a piss up. Like a rolling.
Younger folk.
Yeah.
Because officially the novena isn't it 9 days in the lead up to the 24th, when Jesus was born.
As far as I can see, yeah, that's the idea. And you're meant to visit kind of different branches of the family and stuff like that. And everybody takes a turn of hosting. Again, seems like a bit of a faff to me. But, you know,
Well, you're the
good excuse
Grinch
for a
anyway.
drink.
You don't get involved in these things. But Paola's been in touch. Have you got that text? Yeah.
Yeah. So she says it's lighting up candles to illuminate limbo. And I'd forgotten about this, of course. That lovely Catholic tradition that says that, you know, stillbirths and this sort of thing, children who die very young and aren't baptized don't get to go to heaven, you know, Christian charity and all that. So the Virgin Mary says, well, you know, God could just let them into heaven, but no, you know, administration, computer says no. So instead, put up some candles so at least they've got some light for a few days.
Well, okay. I'm sure then. No comment on that. But anyway, a lot of this is rather familiar to me in some ways from my own upbringing. Obviously, slightly different here in operation, but lots of similarities. So the novenas, anyway. So thanks for that, Paolo, for explaining the origins of La Noche de los Velitas. So the novenas then leading up to the 24th, and of course it's the 24th here, Ollie, that is the big day for us. Both of us, we do it on the 25th. We have our big family gathering or whatever you want to do on the 25th, and that's your big meal here. It's all about midnight on the 24th. Well, I guess midnight is when it's kind of almost cut-off point, and you're building up to that. And a big kind of fancy meal as if you're never going to eat again in your life. It's not really a feature, though, is it, here?
Doesn't seem to be. I mean, some Colombians might correct us here. You know, experiences might be different in other families. I have to say, you know, I'm used to sitting down and having a 7,000 calorie meal, as well as kind of, you know, Bailey's cream on cornflakes in the morning, a cheese board, you know, 2 or 3 different cheese boards, you know, sherry, port. Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I'd be expecting to get through about 30 units of alcohol, plus about, you know, probably touching on 9,000 calories throughout the day, you know, once you throw in all the boxes of chocolates and all that crap. Doesn't seem to be the case here in Colombia.
Yeah, again, like my experience is, well, last 24th, I think I was in bed by midnight. I just avoided it all. But I have been with Colombian families here, yeah, and like there's a bit of food and there might be some meat or whatever involved, but there's no big massive meal that's part of it. Of course, on the 25th, it's a slow day, and a lot of people in the barrios in Bogotá, from what I've noticed anyway, they'll have an asado because usually the sun is shining. We're into the hot or dry season here in that time in December. So yeah, you'll have your meat offerings there, but yeah, this kind of idea of a big meal. Now, of course, you mentioned this as well, that you find it amusing how Colombia has kind of adopted all the north of the northern hemisphere traditions in terms of decorations with snow, and even though Santa Claus isn't a big thing here with my Santa hat, but even that like kind of features big in decorations, that they don't tend to go too much into their own specific things.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a tropical Christmas, Brendan. I don't see why we can't have palm trees. You know, little pesebres. I don't know what is a pesebre in English.
Crib.
Manger, crib. Yeah, is it crib?
Yeah.
Get a bit lost on those kind of words I don't use in English anymore. Anyway, I'd like to see one, you know, surrounded by palm trees and llamas. Maybe a little capybara wandering past, you know, little chigueros. You know, that'd be nice. Wouldn't that be nice? I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, you know, reindeers, be honest, pretty shit. You see a reindeer and you kind of go, I think everyone who's seen a reindeer in real life goes, really? That it? They're not very big. Not very impressive animals.
They may be charged along with Papa Noel, Santa Claus, of delivering this vaccine around the world. with the efficiency that they have. 24
Fearless.
hours flying around the world. They can do it better than anyone else. I'm just not sure has he the capacity for that Pfizer one to keep it at minus 70 degrees. That could be a challenge, but I'm sure
North Pole is very cold.
It's pretty cold, yeah. It's just, if it's traveling around the tropics, we'll see how that goes. But of course, Santa Claus here. A lot of people mention the whole El Niño Jesus, baby Jesus, delivering any gifts. But again, I don't know how big is it amongst the children here. Do they buy into it like I bought into Santa Claus for?
Well, I mean, you have to bear in mind, Brendan. I mean, a lot of people don't. Need to be a bit careful about what we say here. I mean, I want to say not grow up. That could be a little bit disrespectful. But a lot of people just don't get to the point of not being religious in general. So I suppose they do believe that the baby Jesus brings gifts. That wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I'm pretty sure somebody in their 20s doesn't think that.
I wouldn't think somebody in their 20s would be. I've got to be honest. I would assume that after the age of about 5 or 6, no one would believe in religion at all. But apparently, I'm wrong about that because lots of people evidently do.
Yeah. Okay. But I was on about more about the giving of gifts. But like giving gifts here, it's pretty normal, is it as well? Like, I mean, in Ireland, there's kind of the expectancy that everybody gives the gifts. As I don't have a family here, I've never really got it involved in that side of it. I tend to avoid that element of it. I might meet up for a meal or whatever, or for a few drinks. But in terms of buying gifts for different people, I kind of.
I would say that the quantity of people shopping in the shops at the moment tells its own story. I mean, the shops are, as we said, San Victorino is absolutely ram-packed.
A lot of that as well is just like buying also decorations, because I mean, again, they go big on the decorations. I mean, this current house share that I'm in at the minute, the landlady has had the decorations up well before Halloween. I wrote a blog story about it, saying like the one thing that comes early here in Colombia, in a country well known for its tardiness, Christmas certainly does come early. You can rely on that. I'm just kind of wondering if those listening, Paula, as well, if you're still there in terms of like what the 24th means for you, or do you get into this big meal thing that's kind of more like I would associate with the north of the northern hemisphere, or is it more a lighter affair on the 24th? And Ollie, for you then, like what will you do and what have you done for Christmas?
Well, here I've been around to before now when I've been going out with people. I've been round to Colombians. I generally tend to be travelling at Christmas. It's only in the past couple of years that I haven't. I had my mum visiting just after last Christmas. But yeah, no, I remember going to a Christmas once, and absolutely bizarre, Brendan. And I don't think this is necessarily representative of Colombia, more of that family. But my girlfriend at the time said, "Don't bring a bottle of wine. Nobody drinks. It's not going to be necessary." I said, "Oh yeah, clearly that's she's trying to be nice or whatever, but I'm not turning up empty-handed." And I really did turn out to be the Burke. I mean, certainly my family Christmases were always drunk. I'm a child of divorce, but on both sides of the family divide, both families were getting absolutely stuck into the alcohol. In Colombia, with my girlfriend's family, very much was not the case. There were about 3 of us drinking, and it was awkward, frankly. It's not nice to be the only drunk one. Yeah,
Jacob has written to us there saying, of course, they do all get smashed, but yeah, that's a bit of a generalization. A lot of families that don't, but yeah, I tend to probably follow the alcohol trail on the 24th or on the.
Well, you know what I think is a bit where I think the novenas actually, now I come to think of it, in England I would say, generally speaking, the rule of thumb is you get mullered with your friends on the 24th, and then pubs kick out, 2 in the morning, and you stagger home and you wake up hungover with your family on Christmas Day. So I wonder if that's kind of novenas fill that kind of gap in Colombia. I don't know.
Well, I think everything here, though, around those kind of special times of the year and the Christian festivals or whatever, tends to circle around the family, really. And maybe a few close friends, but it is very much more so, from my experience in Ireland, where you'd kind of have your friend time and then you'd have your family time. Here, it kind of, whenever you do your stuff with your friends, but for these special times of the year, it's all about the family, full stop, and nothing else really. And of course, anyone who's listening and they're gonna have their first Christmas here, just to remember, like the 25th, as we mentioned, though, that is a very kind of ridiculously slow day. There might be a couple of things open, but not an awful lot happening. From a Bogotá perspective, anyway, maybe if you're in other parts of the country that gets an influx of people escaping the cities, then it might be different.
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Bogotá is a magical place with not so many people in it.
Yeah, it is, exactly. It's kind of, it goes from being a bustling city to being almost blissful in how it is. But yeah, Paolo was saying that the 24th is pretty important for Colombians in terms of visiting relatives. Yeah, the more people, the merrier, because people drink, or have time to catch up that they don't see quite often. Well, indeed, yeah, and that's kind of like all over the world. Quick mention on the 31st then, there's kind of almost at the hour mark here. But there a couple of interesting customs. Grapes are a big thing on the.
Oh yes,
on the
and
31st.
Yellow underwear as well.
The grapes thing is like 12 grapes, isn't it, for each month of the
but you year? you have to take them in the 12 seconds.
Yeah, and is it like and then is there something like walking around where you take a suitcase walking outside? We've left this to the last second because there's a couple of interesting things. We can probably mention it in episodes to come. I think
walking around with a suitcase.
Yeah, you go outside and walk around the barrio or something around your block, and it signifies that you'll travel that year. There's I've heard it before, some rather odd custom in that sense. Well, odd to me. Whatever.
I'll tell you something I do like. I'm a massive fan of the Pan-Latin tradition of blowing up a new year. So you make your kind of 2020 kind of person, made into a person and blow it up. I think that's fantastic. Big fan.
Blow it up as in burn it? Or
yeah, well, they usually explode it. I think it's got like a pyrotechnic thing.
So like to get and kind of is that more like an effigy thing that you want?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. There's an effigy of 2020 bomb. Yeah, no, I think that's great fun.
Will it be Donald Trump?
There's a lot of people. Look, I'm a pet owner, and there's a lot of pet owners that get on their high horses here because 10 days a year, Colombians like to let off fireworks for the good of people. And yeah, it's difficult for some pets for about half an hour to an hour. It's really not the end of the world. There's always a balance of kind of who should enjoy life and who shouldn't. I really don't think it's the end of the world. Like I said, I've got 2 dogs and a cat here. I don't think it's the end of the world.
Yeah, well, we're at the hour here. Ollie, I was just going to say, of course, you're going to be hearing bangers and fireworks now, basically, from here on out until early January. It's going to be bang, bang, bang. Although it's still fairly quiet around where I am. Maybe the recession and the pandemic, people have less disposable income to be spending on those things. But yeah, that is our lot. So congrats and thanks everybody for entering, number one, and playing along that little quiz. But congrats to my fellow countryman Kieran Duffy for winning that coffee. It will be on your way to you, and you should definitely have it. You might even have it before Noche de Velitas. No, that'd be expecting a lot. You'll certainly have it before Christmas. Anyway, next week, Ollie, it's going to be either our last one of the year or penultimate one of the year, we think. So we're going to be doing our little 2020, the year that was.
Recap.
Was a very interesting year, wasn't it?
Definitely.
I think that there was some pandemic or somebody said something about that.
Somebody said.
Anyway,
all right,
yeah.
let's go.
Until next week, guys. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.